Okay, I have 7:08, so I'm gonna get slowly started on things here. My first, I guess, week 3 of the Matrikin Quilt Along, we're going to be, thanks Melissa, we're going to be sewing together our strips into strip sets and then cutting them apart into thin strip subsets, I think I called them. So, we're going to use our imagination tonight. Hello, how are you? We're going to use our imagination tonight and pretend these aren't bargain bin fabrics, and pretend we can just, in them beautiful, nice colors. What I do is, first off, my fabrics are starched, and I starched and ironed and carefully cut apart. I did post a video last week to my YouTube channel, and that is between the color choices and the strip cutting. Hello! Those are my 2 videos on there right now, so those take you through weeks 1 and 2. And for week 3, we have already cut our strips, and we're going to be sewing them together. The way I do it is, first, step 1 is on my sewing machine, hello, I take my machine and I decrease my stitch length down to, on my machine it's like I do 1.5 or 2, excuse me, or maybe even smaller sometimes. What you don't want to happen is, if you have a long stitch length, your seams, as you'll stitch your whole seam together, when you cut them apart, if you have a long stitch length, your seams will pop open like that after you cut them, and you really don't want that to happen, because you're going to be sewing this to another piece, but if you handle them not even a little bit carefully, they start to pop open. So this is one that I did on purpose, not right, just to show you the seams pop open, and that's not great. But on these ones, I stitched really close together. They don't come open at all, so that's key. So decrease your stitch length on your machine. Number 2 is key to not let the so your strip sets don't warp. When you're feeding your strips through your machine, you just want to let the machine take the fabric and go with it. Let the feed dogs do all the work, and don't try to push it or pull it or adjust it in any drastic way. Just kind of, you can guide it, but don't push or pull on the fabric, because that'll just make it stretch and warp and go wavy. Second thing that I do is, sorry about that. I'll go through, my strips are labeled A, B, C, and D, and these are for the 4-color quilt, and you do something similar for the 8-color quilt. So you'll take fabrics A and B, and you'll put them right sides together. Hey Ursula, how are you? You'll put your A and B fabrics right sides together, and you'll sew down this seam in this direction. So here I put an arrow on there. So A and B go together, and you'll sew down. And then you'll go to, hello. Oh. Okay. So I guess I'll start over real quick with this section. We're gonna start sewing our strip sets together with a with a shortened stitch length. You'll put strips A and B together, pretending that C and D aren't here, and you'll put them right sides together and sew down the length in the direction of the arrow, and then you'll put strip C on, but you'll sew it together like this. See, you have A and B, A and B. All already sewn together. And then you'll put strip C on and sew in this direction. So you alternate the directions that you're sewing. So you'll sew down on this one, but then you'll sew up on this seam. And then again, for D, you put the last one on and you'll sew in this direction. So you go up and down, and then up, or down, then up, then down. But you do that to alternating your direction of your strip sets. Rotate it just 180 degrees each way, because if you don't, your strip sets can kind of, I'll just do this exaggerated, but they kind of want to expand at the top and like bow in at the bottom, or top, bottom, vice versa. So just alternate your sewing lines up and down, or down and up, whatever direction you want to start in. That's the key to not getting your strips all warped. And again, let your feed dogs do the work. Don't push, don't pull, just gently guide your fabric through the machine. So next is I'm going to do a little on camera. Thank you. Yeah, when you're doing like I do a lot of strip set quilts. I love them. I love how fast they go, and quick and easy. You don't have to sew a million pieces together, and you can do smaller, more complex pieces. Like I did my Amplify quilt. It's got all kinds of pieces, smaller pieces sewn together, and I didn't have to cut a single square out. I love not having to deal with millions of tiny pieces. Just put them in strip sets and cut them apart, and it makes life so much easier. So hopefully I will not burn myself on camera, because that would not be good. I'm going to iron live here. I'm going to show you how to gently and carefully iron your strip sets open, or press your seams. You don't iron, you press. So I'm going to move the camera here, and I'll have to do a little adjusting, maybe. So here is my ironing mini iron setup. Let's see if I can get you guys looking at it here. All right. So what I like to do to press my pieces is I take and fold it open with, let's do it this way so you can see a little bit better. Lay it flat like this, and then gently take the top layer and fold and just like finger press it open. That way you're not stretching or warping the fabric. You just gently press on the length of your seam with no heat, and that kind of holds it open for your iron to work on it. You can also use, I have one of these tools. It's like it's called 4-in-1 Essential Sewing Tool by Alex Anderson. And you can also use this to press your seams. I use these in foundation paper piecing. When there's like a bazillion seams to iron, I just use one of these instead of using an iron. Or you can get really fancy here and gently use a butter knife to press that open, or you can use a hair marker. So any of these work just fine. It's just pressing the seam open without any heat. Just a more gentle process. Oh, hey Stephanie, how are you? So after you finger pressed your seam open, you want to gently, you don't want to iron, you don't want to move your iron back and forth. You just want to press your seam, lift up your iron, and move it down the seam. Back and forth. But if you move your iron, you can shift this piece out of place. You see how I'm kind of stretching it, but you can kind of warp it out of place. And I'll iron it a little bit and exaggerate it, but long story short, this piece isn't straight anymore. It kind of like warped into a little C piece, which is no good. And your strip sets will be a little bit wonky. Here, I'll do one more for you. It was a good step to do. I like demonstrating this here. Oh, Asheron's there too. Hi, Asheron. Here's another one. Like I said, take and gently peel back your, I'll do it on this side too. Like peel back your top layer and then just press gently. Push your seam open gently, and you can use a hair marker to gently press that if your fingers start getting irritated after a while. And then just gently press, don't iron, don't move it. Pick it up and move it down your fabric. And you'll get a nice, crisp, clean seam all the way down. I like to finger press your seam open. That way you're not moving the fabric as much. You just have your gentle touch of your finger. If you get like bubbles, I guess I call them, it's kind of like where the fabric doesn't wanna roll over. You get like this like a bubble in your seam. Just I recommend taking a hair marker or a knife, a butter knife or whatnot, just something, and gently moving that out, pushing that out, and then ironing it back down again. So oh, his eyes got real wide. He thought you could see him. Oh, I'm like Santa Claus, Asheron. I could see little boys. I tell my nephew that I could see him all the time, and he I think he knows that I could see him. He's naughty, and I call him out on it from miles and miles away. So you be careful. You never know who's watching you. All right. So you will then iron all your strip sets. I have instructions in there to press your seams to one side. I don't like to press them open in this case, because when you do sew your blocks together, like you'll sew your strip sets to another piece, so it'll be sewn together like this. You don't have a lot of bulk there, and you don't have any matching seams, so in this case you can I like to press them open as much as or press them closed as much as I can, and like pressing them open doesn't really reduce any bulk, because like I said, there's only this one seam coming together, and I have you press the other side to the background, so there's no resistance in these seams whatsoever. So that's the easy peasy way to do that. One last thing before I let you go, there is a typo in the pattern. I wrote it in the newsletter today, but if you look at page 7, you're making the large throw size, the 4-color large throw size. There's a correction in table 1. You will, I have you cut out 5 strips of each color, but the table only says you need to make 4 strip sets, so you'll actually use all 5 each of your colored strips to make 5 strip sets, not 4. So in the end, there's not a shortage of fabric, there's just a shortage of my instructions telling you to make strip sets. So that's not a big problem. So plenty of fabric, just a lot of people haven't noticed because they get all excited and they just sew their strip sets together anyway. So all right, one last thing. I'm going to turn my iron off here so I don't burn myself. All right, one last thing is I included optional cutting labels in my pattern. It's on the very last page. I keep mine in a little baggie. I don't know where I put them, but I have ones for every step of the way. I have cutting labels for cutting these strips out, and in this instance, this week, you'll be using the P, N and P, or there are, I think it's W and Y if you're making the 8 color, but hey Shar, how are you? You finally found me, yes. On each of these, you could take, and it's, you can use this label for any size. So if you're making the crib size, you'll put in here, just pretend it's 5P, or if you want to make the king size, it's like 120P. You just write in here what quantity you need, and you just pin it to your strips. So in this case, you will need 50 of the 1.5 inch wide strip sets or subset pieces, and then for the end pieces, you'll need 25 end pieces. And oh, I forgot, what I like to do is, I did write it in the instructions, but when you do cut your strip sets, you want to cut all the 5-inch pieces first, and then you can go back and cut your 1.5-inch pieces. So just a rule of thumb in general for cutting strip sets out, or pretty much any piece out. You want to cut the big pieces out first, and then move on to your small pieces, because you can always kind of cobble together for the small pieces with some scraps or something if you need like an extra couple of them, but you really can't cobble together a big hunk very well. So, oh, you like the labels? Oh my goodness, I love the labels. I am so organized in general. I'm like the organized queen, so I'm so glad. I've gotten real good feedback on my labels. I know, Melissa, you tested my iterate pattern, and I always try to do step by step, and I hope that keeps you gals organized, especially with the more complex and complicated patterns. This one gets pretty, no, not too bad, but it gets kind of a lot of pieces and, you know, orientations with the 8 color one, but this one, the 4 color non-directional, isn't bad at all. So I really appreciate the feedback on that. That's awesome. I think that's it. Oh, one more thing. Kind of like we did last week in the cutting of our strips, we're going to, I lost my ruler. I don't know where my ruler is. We're just gonna pretend. I like pretending today. You are not organized, Melissa, so you love them. I am so glad to help you be organized. I am, I'd be one of those organizing people if I could. Those, what's up, Marie Kondo, maybe not that like minimalistic, but I'd definitely be an organizing guru if I had the opportunity to be here in rural Wisconsin. Not a big need for it out here, but when you are cutting your strip sets, sub-cutting anyway, you want to make sure that you trim off your first piece here. So you trim off this raw edge here, and then you'll cut and cut and cut a couple pieces. What you want to do every few strips is, so you're not cutting a wonky line here every time. You actually might, you know, get it off kilter a little bit while you're cutting one. You want to, every few strips, just square it up, and I like to just use the horizontal seam lines, and they're not going to be equally spaced out, but you can give it a good squaring up, just so it's not, you know, crazy and wonky like that. Every few strips, just make sure you're cutting on a square edge so your pieces aren't small at the bottom or top, and then, you know, they blow out at one end. So just make sure you're keeping that in mind. Just keep everything square and true to the world. I think that's it. I really don't have any more tips or tricks unless somebody else has any questions. I'll hang out here for a couple minutes for some questions. I know there's some time delay. Ooh, sorry, move you guys around here. There's some time delay in by the time you guys type and for me to see it, so I'll just kind of tidy up my space here for a quick second and see if you guys have any questions or if you want to chat about anything. I think I figured out how to record the video last couple times. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. But I'm of the age where I'm tech savvy, but not quite, as tech savvy as hey Audrey, not tech savvy as some younger people. So for some reason the audio recorded wonderfully for my last 2 videos, but it didn't have any like picture at all. So it was just like me talking in the dark. It was really, really kind of weird. So thank you, Melissa. I appreciate it. I'm glad you got some good info out of it. So yeah, I'm hoping this uploads correctly, or downloads and uploads correctly this time. Hey, Audrey. Oh, sorry about that. So, I guess if you don't have any questions, I'll upload this probably tomorrow, and I'll be available all week long to answer any questions on Instagram that you may have. This week might be a little bit more complicated week for some of the beginners, but shout out, I'm more than happy to do a personal live session with you, Google or whatever you need to do. So my goal is to make quilting accessible and make my patterns accessible to confident beginners and above. So if you have any more questions, just shout out at me during the week, either on Instagram and Facebook page. I got a few people there, and that's about it. Or email. You guys know where to find me. So I really appreciate you joining me tonight. I had a good time, and thanks for bearing with me as I learn Instagram Live. It's been interesting, but I'm really glad to be here and to help you guys out. So you guys have a good evening, and I'll see you guys hanging out tomorrow. Have a good night. Take care.